Welcome, everybody. So this is Doug Parks, and I'm thrilled that you're here to begin our journey, the journey to return to the garden. The Garden of Eden is a story that has been told to generation after generation after generation of those of us who've been seeking spiritual wisdom. And the story was pretty simple. As Adam and Eve were in the garden, they had everything they wanted provided for them. And wouldn't that be a nice place to be, where everything you wanted was provided for you? Too bad they messed it up for us, huh? Well, that's what I believed I heard when I was being taught about spiritual principles. But as I've listened to teacher after teacher and wisdom master after wisdom master, what finally filtered through all my judgments was the fact that the Garden of Eden story was the story of life as it can be. And our topic today is going to be man as he can be. Man, I'm not saying men, I'm saying mankind. I'm saying the women power players of the world. And I want to acknowledge right here and now something the Dalai Lama said on a recent visit to the United States: the world will be saved by the Western woman. Profound, because as I have known in my assisting spiritual teachers for 30 plus years, that the predominant group in the seeking for wisdom and change has been women. It always has been. At one point, it was 90% women that were seeking change and understanding. Today, there are more and more men joining that process, but it's truly the women of the world that are about to awaken to the power we have as individuals to bring change. Now, our topic today is man as he is, because it's time for us to take the blinders off and begin to understand the rules of life as they actually are. We've been trying to make sense out of our programming, looking at the world and trying to understand the conflict of the two. Your programming is different from reality. And to learn a path of non-judgment, what is required is that we learn to become observers of what is, instead of the judges of what should be. Do you know that much of our work in the world, much of our thought in the world is comparing what is with an artificial belief inside of us that it should be different? Yes, we want it to be different, but in fact, we'll never be able to change it until we can accept what is. Only then are we empowered to bring about the change within us that will allow a change to take place outside of us. So our goal today is going to be to look closely at the truth of what is. And the truth is, we judge constantly. We judge because we take seriously the beliefs that were programmed in the subconscious mind. The beliefs that men should act in a certain way, the beliefs that women should act in a certain way, the belief that things should be fair, the belief that things should be different than they are, the belief that things should be loving, the belief that people that we send to represent us and make laws should believe as we do and take our ideas to heart. Have you ever found those things to be true? I doubt it. You'll find examples where, I like that person. They said things I believe. The world is filled with people seeking those people, saying what they believe so they can feel comfortable in the moment. You're going to understand that in a much deeper way in just a short period of time, because our seeking for comfort is the number one issue we have to deal with. When we talk about man as he is, in our discussion and in your notes, I ask that what we put up here on the screen, these are the things I want you to make sure are in your notes, because your notes you will refer back to time and time and time again in order to get simple clarity rather than complex understanding. Do you recognize that living simply, living with a simple roadmap, is easier than learning calculus and trying to calculate every move you make according to the rules of calculus? The more complicated you make life, the more you have to judge. The more you have to use the resources inside that are causing the stress and illness that you're fussing about, that you're stressing about. In our introduction, we talked about the fact that stress is directly correlated with your judgments. There is no question whatsoever in my mind. When I first started speaking those words in 1975, it was laughable. Today, even the medical world, although they don't understand the source of stress, they have drugs to help you de-stress. I hope we can laugh a little more today about that very concept. There are drugs that can bring about your health. They're the ones that put you in a coma. Because as soon as they put you in a coma, what they find in the hospital situation is all of a sudden health begins to return to the person who isn't thinking anymore. And yet, that's not the answer. The answer is for you and I to understand the source of our programming and how to change it. Because the beliefs that you were programmed with when you were a child, when you were 4, 5, 6, 2, 3 years old, the beliefs that were appropriate then are not necessarily the way to make decisions today. But what we find, what the psychological world finds, what the world of scientists has found, is that you and I tend to make decisions based on feeling and then use this powerful intellect to justify what we just decided to do. While we think we are making decisions with the intellect and following the path of least resistance, oftentimes is quite different. When we talk about man as he can be, our symbol is the large V. This is man. And we're going to use this symbol throughout our class. And the PB at the bottom of the symbol represents your physical body. Because your physical body is the perfect outprint. It's the perfect reflection of the programs inside your subconscious mind. The beauty that shines through your eyes, the love that radiates from your heart, the glorious things that make us feel good, all are you living out the programs in your subconscious. And the road rage you feel when you have to go through traffic, that how could they be so stupid as to work on the roads when I'm supposed to be someplace? How could they shut down the 405 for 53 hours and expect us to get anywhere? How could those things out there, how could they be so stupid as to affect me that way? Well, maybe just me. I may be the only one that judges those things out there, but I don't think so. And I ask you, has your judgment of those things out there ever changed one reality? I think not. And I also think that it's quite likely that your physical body is not being treated as the prince, the beautiful gift of Creator that it actually is. If you are treating your body with the love and respect that you want others to treat you with, would you not treat it with really good food? Food that was really good for you? Thoughts that actually brought out your beauty instead of thoughts that made you cringe? Thoughts are everything. Everything that happens in your life, everything that happens in your being, everything that happens in your interactions with other people is always a result of a thought that happened first. Our focus throughout this process is to become aware of those thoughts that are usually tucked way down in the subconscious, out of sight. We're going to learn a process of bringing out-of-sight programs up to the fresh air where they can be viewed, seen, laughed at, and changed. Isn't that an easier process than fighting with the rest of the world, trying to get them to change, to understand you're important or that you're special or that it really should be your way in this world? The A in the middle is your awareness. Probably should have been a little a, but since we have a wonderful group, we really made it a capital A. You guys are really aware. If you're listening to this, you're really aware, so you get a capital A. Creator at the top of the V. That's the truth of our existence from my perspective. That's what our life is built on, our sending information to the Creator about our experience here on planet Earth with all these other crazy people that don't know what I want. Or all these loving people who are co-creating with me. Which would you rather do? What if we woke up every morning, went out in the world, and our belief system was one that I was going to have the opportunity to co-create with several people I already know, and when I'm in the flow, I may attract some new people to co-create with also. Or, oh, got to go to work today. Oh, that idiot I've got to sit next to. She just yaps and yaps. She's got a health problem at nah. How many times do we expect the worst, create the worst in our experience before we ever get there to find out what the reality is? If you're living your judgments of what you fear before you ever get to the creation of that moment in time, you have altered reality with your story. Your story of unreality affected your body, affected your broadcast, affected your mind, all from ignorance. All from the belief that our thoughts are in our head and I'm the only one listening. I hope you're convinced during this process that that isn't the truth. Your thoughts are not in your head. As a matter of fact, I've got some pictures. I'm not going to show you this weekend, but I've got some pictures of some really fancy equipment they put over the head of somebody that can read their thoughts, read the vibrations from outside their head. Stunning technology. But the truth has been here for thousands of years. We already know that. We already know that our thoughts are broadcast. How many times have you gone to pick up the phone and have the thought, oh, that's Susie, only to find Susie on the other end of the phone. Oh, I'm psychic. No, we're connected. That's all it is. That's the truth of the world. We are connected with Creator as long as we're not in judgment. It is you and I that create the only separation that's possible between you and Creator by taking on judgment as your choice of a way to live life rather than taking on life as a way to love Creator. Since you were aware of the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and Adam and Eve took on the knowledge of good and evil, from that time on, mankind has lived with the law of survival. They were cast out of the garden. But what does that mean that we live by the law of survival? It means we fight and run constantly. And what does it mean that we fight and run? I'm going to explain the rules of it in a short time, but what that means, if we're living under the law of survival, it means we're constantly either defending our thoughts, our position, our life, or if we're not doing the defending part, we are running to keep from having to look at what's true in life or keep from having to deal with it. Now, the law of survival isn't necessarily a pretty thing, because you're going to see as we go through this process that living by the law of survival was intended for just a few instances in your life. If you are walking in the woods and a bear jumps out in your path and he happens to be hungry, that is an appropriate place for the law of survival. And instantly, because you see the challenge in front of you, you will instantly create the chemistry within your body to be able to fight with that bear. Or maybe run like the Dickens. I would run like the Dickens. And I hope you understand that that's an appropriate use of the law of survival. That's an appropriate, if something comes into your world over which you have no control and it genuinely threatens your existence on planet Earth, it's a great thing to have the law of survival as a tool to adapt to the situation. Sadly, that's not how the law of survival is used. Sadly, we go through a process day after day where we begin to look for the bears in our life, whether the bears are the bosses, whether the bears are the traffic police, whether the bears are the policemen who might catch us in what we did 35 years ago, or we have artificial bears that we create to use the law of survival. What are the tools of the law of survival? Well, there are emotions. In order to fight, there are two emotions we use. Hate, which is intense anger, where we have to overcome, make sure we destroy this evil out there that might get us. Like that idiot in the traffic who jumped in front of you, or something like that. That's something that really deserves a deep reaction, right? Maybe not. But hate and anger are two emotions that you know. And did you know that those emotions are broadcast from your face all the time? We think of childbirth as this wonderful, peaceful, loving experience, don't we? Let's go on that journey for just a minute. A child has been in the mother's womb for 9 months. And that child has been nurtured. That child is at 98.6 degrees. That child is fed constantly whenever he wants. That child has all the benefits that come with mom as a host. And then there comes a time when birth comes into the process. Oh boy, I can hardly wait. Mom and Daddy sing to me, and I know this is going to be a wonderful world out there. I'm ready. I want to come into this world. So I signal Mom, it's time to be born, Mom. And labor begins. And from this 98.6 degrees, sheltered, nurtured, muffled sound, everything is so quiet. I am brought through this canal that's way too small. I am squeezed, I am pushed, I'm feeling Mom's pain. Oh, I'm killing her. I'm feeling all the anxiety, and I come out into this beautifully lit, very, very cold. It's great for the doctors. They really love it at 65 degrees. But at 98.6 degrees, when a child comes out into the world and instantly they are rubbed by this sandpaper-like substance called a soft cloth. They are clean. Instantly, the umbilical cord that has connected me with Mom and given me security and food and everything is snipped and cut and Birth is not this peaceful Garden of Eden type situation, is it? Sound. As they clean out the fluid from the ears, the air rushing to those eardrums is like me coming up with a pair of cymbals and clanging them in your ear. And light. We are aware that as an adult has eye surgery or eye trouble, and if you had a patch over your eye, they'll put you in a dark room and they'll lightly peel that thing away because they know for a fact it hurts as light hits the eyes. Do we care about the children? Apparently not. They want big operating room lights so they can see all the problems. Do you wonder why there's this tremendous movement worldwide to conscious birthing? Because that little a is growing. The awareness of what we are programming ourselves, our children, our next generation to do is beginning to well up from inside. And you and I are finally realizing that listening to authorities is not necessarily the peaceful path to a life of harmony and love. The programs put into the subconscious mind for most people are never changed their lifelong. And what I started to tell you is if you'll go into the hospital today, or sometime the next time you're there, go look at the children. Go look at the children in the operating room, especially those that are just born, and see if you don't see about 4 lines across the forehead. The body language for anger. And I suggest that you go look in a mirror sometime and see for yourself if you don't carry broadcast, have the ability to. My dad, I know when I was little, he could control anybody in his environment with just a look, because that look also included the body language of, okay, I'm about to get you. How do you use your body language? Do you realize that every time you feel emotion, what is required is that your body broadcasts that? Your thoughts are not in your head, and your body has never told a lie. It is always truthfully mirrored exactly what's going on inside you. I told you that in this process, we were going to strip away the illusion that everything was inside you and people would see just what you wanted them to see. That's not the case. As a matter of fact, you are highlighting what you don't want them to see by trying to hold it inside instead of being honest with it. But some of us, anger wasn't our path. And we would never hate. Oh, no, that would never. Hate is just intensity. Hate is the same thing as anger. It's just felt intensely. The rest of us held resentment and fear. How many of you understand that there are programs within you that elicit a fear response? And that fear response is part of the law of survival. I'm here to tell you there's a higher law. That's the law that you've heard about before as love and understanding. I'm going to tell you that's wrong, because it's understanding opens the door to love. Until you understand the rules of the game, your chances of getting to love are almost zero, because the only way to get to genuine, unconditional love is through the doorway of non-judgment. You have to set aside your habit, your incessant habit of reacting to anything and everything that comes along in your life. As long as you are reacting, you are not in control. Your parents are. Your priest is. I was raised in the Catholic Church, and one of the things I became aware of is the Jesuit belief that they are quite proud of. Give me a child till he's 6 years old. He will belong to the church forever. Think about it. What did they know that they're not telling us? I think they know the simple truth, that once you program the subconscious mind to take on beliefs, we have lived in a world where the technology was not there to understand and undo what was done. Great teachers have tried to lead us in that direction over and over again. And the churches take on their banner, add judgment to it, and teach it to you. Non-judgment with judgment added to it isn't a pathway to peace. It's a pathway to control. And it's been used very effectively to bring populations closer and closer to the truth. But you and I are here at this time that it's time to seize the truth. With the law of survival, the very first program, and I'm going to preface this with a statement I really want you to take to heart. It matters not to me whether you believe what I'm telling you or not. I would prefer you didn't. Because those of you who say, well, Doug told a good story, I'll just believe it, I'll just pretend, you're going to find a life that doesn't change at all. But for those of you will say, Doug told me a story that I don't know. How could this idiot who lived in a mountain and has been avoiding people all his life and thinks he's a hermit, and how could he know something that I should know? I know only what I've experienced, and I'm asking you to do the same thing. Give up your knowing and start looking at the truth of your experience. What is your body telling you as a truth teller about the way you're living life? Is it a life of harmony? Is it a life of struggle? Is it a life of love? Is it a life of survival? The one thing we have in common is that when we came into this world, we found it disturbing. And the very first program in the belief system I'm asking you to observe, look at, when you go back out into the world, we're going to spend a week between now and the next time we come together again. As you go back out in the world, I'm asking you to observe and ask yourself if maybe this is true. And then decide for yourself from your own observation if we're talking about a path towards peace or a waste of my time. I'm too busy struggling. I hope you choose the path towards peace, but not because I said it, but because you observed with new eyes, with new awareness, the joy that's possible. The master decision we all made, and this is in every language, in every place across the world. My master decision is the purpose of my life is to be or become non-disturbed. Now, imagine for a moment the intensity of the experience a child feels when they come into the world. How much emotion do they put into their experience? My guess is all of it that they have. When I came into the world, I was coming in sideways. My mother had a yucky experience with my birth, and I didn't like it much either. I was trying to scramble my way back in there where I came from. This was scary as the dickens. And I knew I was killing her. At least as you know as a child. We have a belief system that the minds and brains of the kids aren't developed yet. They can't talk, so they must not have feelings. Huh? What we have is all feeling. What we lack is the ability to say, quit, will you turn the lights down, please? We can't say those things, but we have the feeling inside. And with all the intensity of the experience you had, your master decision to become non-disturbed was set in as a basic program in the subconscious mind. And it's my contention, my belief, and my experience in watching my life that everything I did from that point on was an effort to gain non-disturbance. It's disturbing to change, isn't it? It's disturbing when people want you to change. It's disturbing when you live life, because all life is change. There is not one molecule of life on planet Earth that is not in a metamorphic state. Whether it takes the rocks eons to change, or the beautiful flower hours to change, or the beautiful mind that you have the instant to change focus. It's all change. That's all that's real. That's man as he is. Can you accept life as it is? Probably not until you understand that your motivation, the greatest motivation you've had so far, quite likely, is to find non-disturbance. The way you sat when you came into the room today, the interactions you've had so far are all designed for your comfort. Does it work? Because, do you remember the story of the princess and the pea? And as a pea was placed under this mattress, the princess would get so uncomfortable because she was aware of that pea. So they would put another mattress on top, and another mattress, and another one, and another one. And the princess represents you. You are so elegantly created. You are so beautifully designed that your sensitivity can tell where the pea is. I don't care how many mattresses are there. The question is your focus towards comfort or is your focus towards discomfort? You can lay on the pea and be comfortable. You can lay on a bed of nails and be comfortable. Or, what's been your choice? How many times have you laid on a bed and fussed and fussed and fussed over the discomfort that was caused to you because it wasn't broken in just like your favorite spot? How many other excuses do you have for being uncomfortable? If you can lay on a bed of nails and be comfortable, what else? What can't you do? I can be here and be comfortable. You can be there and be comfortable. But that's not the way we've been living life, trying to find our master decision. In order to fulfill that master decision, I'm going to take you through a process that every human being on planet Earth has gone through in our efforts to find non-disturbance. Now, I want to be really clear here. The struggle for non-disturbance is a judgment. It's a denial of reality. It is, no, I'm not comfortable unless it's this way. I want this so I'll be comfortable. Those are judgments that separate you from reality. And the 7 decisions we make, this is a process every child goes through, making 7 different attempts to find a way of becoming non-disturbed. The master decision was the first judgment. The 7 decisions we're about to go through are attempts to fulfill the master decision. What we put on the board, I ask you to put on your notes. And I promise you, there will be times when you're in the midst of a reaction, you're in the midst of a situation, and the light bulb goes off. Oh, isn't there, maybe this is one of those things that my emotions are getting in my way. What were those 7 things? I want them to be in your notes. Decision number 1, and we've all made it. It's important to have my way now. And imagine as a child comes into the world, how does a child communicate that he's hungry, wet, wants something, needs attention? Wah! Oh, Mom, bring milk, please. Oh, Mom. No, it's wah. And what's the emotion behind it always? Anger. You'll see it in their foreheads. You'll see it in their body language. You'll see it in their clenched fists. Because the body doesn't lie. And in that moment, the child learns that, oh, all I have to do is cry. Mom shows up. Oh, took care of everything. But how long does that comfort last? Moments, minutes? How many of you know people that are living in grown-up bodies whose emotional life is still stuck right here? They are the people who express anger to get their way, because I know it's supposed to be my way here on this, and if I'm angry enough, everybody will pay attention. You know those people. They're in your life right now. They are living with the first decision. And as we go through these 7 decisions, I want you to understand there's one of those 7 decisions that you made with more emotion than the other 6. And that is your habit of reacting in your life today. So I'm asking you to be introspective. I'm asking you to look at yourself. You're going to tell me at the end that, oh yeah, I do all 7 of those sometimes. But when you're under stress, I want you to know, I want you to hear me and decide for yourself later on that you'll go back to that same pattern over and over and over again. We are totally predictable. And we broadcast to the world what our habits are. Everybody but you knows what your habits are. Everybody but you understands how to respond to get you out of the way or to get you happy so that they're okay. We know how to deal with each other. It's just not honest. And it's time for us to be free and honest, to be able to say to the person who's angry what we feel inside, but in a loving way. Decision number 2, to think a thing makes it so for me. And this is, have you seen a 2-year-old child who lives in the world of fantasy? Oh, I've got a laser and I'm fighting the world. Or I'm a princess, I've got a veil. Or whatever the fantasy, they truly live in that world. And it's beautiful. But what happens when an adult is stuck there? What happens if that's the level that you put the most emotion? What you find is jealousy. What you find is storytelling. What you find is as soon as you see something, you'll make up a story of what that means, and you'll live as if that story were the truth. Oh, he went out. He's with his buddies. They're someplace they shouldn't be, and I'm going to show him when he gets home. Or, what is the grown-up version that you play in that game? Have you ever done that? Have you ever made up a fantasy of what they were doing, he was doing, she was doing, the world was doing, the politicians were doing, and lived as if that were the truth? Well, I want you to know, for your physical body, whatever your judgment was, it was your truth. Because you created the chemistry of that judgment in your body and you lived with it. You had to experience what you just created. And now a magical decision comes in. Decision number 3. It's important to please others. You see, when the child goes wah at 4 a.m, and mom comes in, or mom kicks dad out of bed, and dad comes in and says, "What do you want?" That's not the response I wanted. I wanted somebody to play with. I was awake. I wasn't hungry. I just wanted attention. And then as we learn that sometimes we've got to please others, major conflict. Here I've got decision number 1, it's important to have my way. Here's this, you mean sometimes I've got to please others? How do I know which one to do? Oh man, I've got troubles. And life had an answer for you. We created the ego. And from that time on, for the rest of your life up until today, the ego has taken on the job for you of making that decision of which emotion to play with, how to react to this situation. The ego first judges. In other words, it compares this situation with every mistake you've ever made before in an effort to find the best path. The ego evaluates, using all the power of this incredible mind to take in all the judgments possible, all the situations possible that might influence which decision you should use. And the ego blames. It's not my fault. It's never my fault. Has it ever been your fault? The guilt doesn't come in until after you've already done something. You've already made a choice. Then you feel guilty. But guilt is something we create afterwards. And the ego justifies. Do you know that it's impossible to do anything unless you justified it? Do you realize that Hitler justified every horrific thing he ever did? In his mind, he couldn't have done it otherwise. Is your ego a prince of peace in your life or a source of conflict? For someone who lives by judgment, my answer is clear. And I'm asking you to take this information in. And I want you to go back out into the world after this class today. And I want you to begin the process of observing and try to keep your emotions detached from the situation so you see clearly. And it's not going to work sometimes. Sometimes you're still going to find yourself in reaction, in emotion over things you have no control over. And I hope those are light bulbs that go off and tell you, oh, there's potential for change here. Decision number 4 comes next. Don't ask questions, just do as you're told by authority. This is an epidemic decision today because we've raised a generation that believed that the truth was on television and that everything, all their information about how to live life was right there on that tube. They have taken on authority as the guide in life instead of your awareness speaking to Creator. The reason we don't use our giant resource is because we've judged. The giant resource is Creator's mind that flows through you 24/7, or the Fox News. How do you want to guide your life? Don't ask questions, just do as told by authority. The body language is extra weight. It's clear. Somebody whose subconscious is constantly dealing with fear, fear of doing the wrong thing, fear of doing the right thing, fear of doing the thing that's unacceptable. The body language is clear. And you look at the fact that we're living in a population where obesity is an epidemic. It's an epidemic of fear, my friends. And there's a choice. The choice is that we teach awareness. And only from awareness can we reprogram and change. And it's so easy. It's so easy if we're willing. By the way, all of these decisions give you a temporary reprieve at best, but long term, you constantly have to fight the battle with every single person that comes along. Decision number 5, I'll change to make them happy. Have you gone through that yourself? Do you find yourself going through that regularly now? Decision number 5 is a wonderful decision, and we do our best to get our teenagers to change. Does it work? Not very well. Not until they want to. Not until they've made those decisions. Decision number 6, when 5 doesn't work, we make decision number 6. Oh, they should change, then I'll feel good. Then I'll be okay. Now, we're going to place these decisions on the chart, on the body, because there's a language that the body is speaking to you about which decision is in play, according to where on the body the language is coming. In order to avoid that language, we live in a society that does everything possible to be numb. Whether it's the drinking, the chemistry, the reaction pattern. And us guys have a real advantage here. We were taught not to be sensitive. Don't be sensitive. Be strong. Ignore pain. So we're programmed to think we don't feel anything. We do. Decision number 7. Out of utter frustration, and I honestly had the pleasure of remembering the time I made this decision. I was a young child. I was on vacation in Florida with my family, and I saw myself with my fists clenched, jumping up and down, says, I am important, because nobody was paying any attention to me. happened to have 5 siblings, so it was it was never my turn, it seemed like. And I knew that I would be happy once people paid attention. I am important. And do you know people that whole life is built around trying to prove how important they really are? When I sat through this process for the first time, I saw everybody all around me. I knew Dad's thing, and I knew Mom's thing, and I knew my brother's thing, and I could see everybody. Boy, it took me a while to see myself. I'm asking you to take a shortcut. I know you're going to see other people, recognize other people, but I'm asking you to look in the mirror. I'm asking you to look at your body language. The body that's speaking the truth is talking to you right now. And it's telling you the jewels, not what's wrong, but what's true. And if you can see what's true, you can change any way you want to. If a program was lovingly given to you by a parent who really wanted you to be safe, understand that was the purpose of the program at that time. It wasn't intended to guide the rest of your life. And there are techniques today that you know about, you've heard about, that are bringing about the opportunity to change programs. When you go back to your notes, you're going to find the 7 decisions are placed specifically. And if you imagine this as your body, imagine you're on the screen looking out with the left side having decisions 1, 2, and 5, 1, 2, and 6. The right side having decisions 3, 4, and 5. And we will revisit this at another time because the information is powerful. The truth is powerful. And I'm not asking you to mix those two up. Today, it's information. Once you've had a chance to be out in the world, at some point in time, I was slow. It's taken me 35 years. You don't have to be that slow. You can decide for yourself, yes, there's a possibility. Yes, I'm beginning to see some truth in the process. Or no, I don't see it. At the bottom of the page, once a decision is made or a belief is established, and we're talking about the 7 decisions, we're talking about the master decision, it becomes the rule of our action and attitude from then on. In other words, your subconscious programs are your truth. They have been operating under the radar. The fact that you don't consciously see those decisions made. Have you ever done something with a computer and do you see what goes on underneath in the chips that makes those letters pop up? No, you don't see those programs. You don't see your programs. You see the results of your programs. But those programs become the rule of your action and attitude from then on, regardless of whether you're aware of them or not. Until, and that's the only reason we're here, it's recognized and then changed. If no one's taught you the rules of hockey, you're probably like me. You look at it and say, oh, they're just skating around. They're having a good time. I'll watch that another time. And I've never learned the rules of hockey. The rules of life are the same. If nobody's taught you that all your pain, struggle, and issues have been because of judgment, the genuine authorities in our lives couldn't teach you the truth about judgment because they were teaching through judgment. If life is about you choosing what's good or bad, what's pretty or ugly, then you're destined to a life of struggle. If you can see beauty in every flower, if you can see beauty in every person, if you can see the truth of every person and decide it's not your place to judge, then for the first time, you open the door to a life of love. But love doesn't come first. Understanding does. And that's what we're here to talk about in this class. Understanding and then love. My hope is you'll take your notes. You'll go back out into the world. You will take on the challenge of observation, because observation is different from judgment. Observation is the willingness to see man as he is. To look in the mirror and see the beauty in your eyes instead of the wrinkles and lines. Where do you focus? Whatever you focus on, I promise you're about to get more of. Do you see the light in your eye when you look in the mirror? A lot of you do. A lot of you are beginning to open up. Do you see instead the struggle and strife and conflict, the aging process? Aging is a joke. There's not a cell in your body over 7 years old. So the aging is nothing more than you printing out your beliefs of what it's going to be like as you get older. I'm asking you to return to a life as a child. The simplicity of life as a child. You can. Life isn't complex unless you decide it needs to be complex. The most ethical, the most loving, the most beautiful decisions are always made simply based on very simple principles. Will this improve my life? Will this add struggle to my life? I'm asking you to return to the garden. Because in the garden, we have an opportunity to live without judgment. You will not be punished for the judgments that have gotten you, because it's only those judgments that have awakened you. People don't awaken because they're happy. They awaken because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I congratulate you for being with us for this opportunity to set aside struggle and instead live a life of joy. As we gather the next time, we're going to talk about judging and the component we don't realize is there, revenge. You have your assignment. Go back in the world. Be an observer of life. And come back ready to take the next step, but armed with all the time of observation. You're loved, you're appreciated, and I thank you for creating this opportunity for the world. Namaste.
Hello, friends. Thanks for joining us on our journey to return to the garden. My hope is that something you heard inspired you to want to know more. It's been my experience that the information comes to life as you learn to observe more and judge less. I also know that those observations will lead to more questions. To continue the journey, I want to invite you to be my guest for our continuing monthly online classes. The interactive structure and with question and answers will be fun and filled with laughter. The first 3 sessions are free. Registration is a breeze. Just visit www.returntothegarden.com. That's it, returntothegarden.com. Here's wishing you a happy, stress-free life, and I hope our paths cross again.